Welcome to the Tesla Economist. Please hit the thumbs up and remember to subscribe. You can also follow me on Twitter and talk to me on Patreon. If you buy a new car right now that is not fully electric, then the chances are it will end up costing you a fortune. Depreciation has always been the biggest cost of a car, but that was when there was still a market for used internal combustion cars. What's going to happen when no one wants one? In only a few years, that market is going to plummet. And by the time Tesla launched their $25,000 compact, then it's completely gone. You will lose a fortune on your car. I mean, you may not even be able to give it away, except for scrap. Okay, now I'm being silly, right? Or am I? Well, what if the running cost of your old ICE car cost more than the purchase of a new EV? Then why would anyone want to buy your used ICE car when they can afford a new EV for less money, not to mention the fact gas prices are likely to rise too? It's like musical chairs. The music will stop and there'll be too many ICE cars and not enough chairs. The excess ICE cars will plummet in value. Buying a used ICE car will not be a rational decision. Wait, back up. What did I just say? How could the running cost alone of an ICE car cost more than owning a brand new EV? Now that's a stretch. Yes, it's not true. Well, not for general EVs, but it is true for Teslas. Teslas do not depreciate anything like other cars. In fact, we're even seeing some appreciate. Let's take the Model 3 standard range as an example. If you bought this car, it now retails at $39,900. Now, if you don't have the cash, then it's possible you could borrow on your mortgage at a cost of just under around $1,000 a year interest. Let's say the Tesla costs perhaps an additional $300 a year on your electricity bill to charge. Well, this was in lieu of buying gas at an average of $3,000 a year. Then to service your ICE car and repairs and whatever else they swindle you for, say perhaps another $500 a year that you don't have to spend on a Tesla. Now, let's say you owned the car for 5 years, then we multiply all those numbers by 5. So over 5 years of ownership of a Tesla compared to an average ICE car, you've saved $11,000. But we then have to factor in depreciation, but only for the Tesla, as in this scenario, we valued the ICE car at 0, as we're saying it's worthless, and therefore can't depreciate any further. Well, in 5 years, even if the Tesla is depreciated by $10,000, despite all the new extra amazing functionality and features that will have been added from the over-the-air updates over that time, then it still saved you $1,000 to buy a brand new car compared to being given a free ICE car. Of course, it's an ICE car that was worth something and will have depreciated probably something like $20,000 to $30,000 over that time, particularly if demand has dropped out of the market for ICE cars in 5 years. People stop buying antiquated products. I mean, who's still buying CDs? Of course, eventually there will be other savings too, like Tesla insurance. And you may have solar as well, which will save even more money on charging. Of course, there are other such intangible savings as well. For example, the fact you are more likely to avoid an accident, or if involved in one, more likely to be able to walk out of it. If in an alternate car, you may have been injured, suffer medical expenses, loss of income from missing work, and potentially chronic pain. And the extended pleasure of driving a Tesla, and the fact it can drive itself. These are the numbers, so what have I missed? Well, under this scenario, we are basing it on the assumption that you are able to use your mortgage to purchase the car. I mean, you may have the cash anyway, but some people may have to finance it through Tesla as well. But either way, it still works out a lot cheaper than owning an ICE car. So the adage of people saying Teslas are high-end luxury cars that are too expensive, well, you need to factor in all the economics of the ownership, not just the sticker price. In addition to that, Tesla can make cars for less than the ICE equivalent already, and actually do have a cheaper sticker price than the ICE equivalent. An example would be a Model 3 Performance being cheaper than a BMW M3. Of course, Tesla have a stigma of being expensive, as their first cars were high-end, and that has somewhat conditioned a lot of buyers to think they're expensive. However, it has also maintained Tesla's brand image as luxury and upmarket, which people are also willing to pay more for too. But there is no point in Tesla lowering their prices if people are willing to buy every car Tesla make at higher prices. So instead, they'll dramatically increase their supply. Until then, there is finally too much supply that not everyone can afford their higher price tags. Of course, at this stage, we've also had more economies of scale kick in and more improvement in technology, batteries, manufacturing, further vertical integration, etc., thus lowering the cost to manufacture Teslas in the first place. So that by the time Tesla have 2 million Model Ys produced each year, they can sell them for as low as $40,000 each and still achieve around a 30% gross margin, or maybe more. And as we calculated earlier, $40,000 for a Tesla is the same cost of ownership of an ICE car costing about negative $20,000. In other words, an ICE dealer would have to give you $20,000 to make this car of equal value. Also, the more people discover this, the less inclined they will be to risk their money in buying a losing asset. This will be a vicious circle for ICE manufacturers. So it's best people realise earlier now, so these manufacturers go out of business earlier and we can get the problem sorted sooner, before they waste more capital, resources and taxpayers' money making products consumers no longer want that poison us. Now, if the government are trying to save these legacy companies to create jobs, well, it's very easy to create jobs. We could just ban diggers, for example, and that would create a lot more jobs for people to use shovels instead. Is that wise? Is that going to improve our standard of living? This stems from the ideology of the economist John Maynard Keynes, who argued that in an economic downturn, the government can stimulate demand by, in effect, paying people to dig holes in the ground and then fill them back up. But the thing is, unlike digging a hole, making an internal combustion car, well, it's a machine that goes around poisoning people and affecting climate change that could literally kill our planet. I mean, it's one thing using our money to maintain jobs, but at the effect of our health and our children's health is a different thing. A lot of consumers don't even understand how a Tesla is fully electric and how that can even be a thing. We're only at the start of the S-curve. There are a lot of exponentials left to kick in, and Tesla are not spending any money on informing consumers. Once more people have EVs, then they will educate the people they know, who in turn might also buy one, and educate those who they know, and so on. Eventually consumers will be educated enough as knowledge proliferates through. Also, any consumer looking at buying a Tesla might also consider looking into the used market too, only to discover a Tesla isn't really much cheaper used, or could even cost more. Instantly, they have evidence that these cars don't depreciate. One more reason to buy a Tesla over an ICE car. One more reason for demand to drop for ICE cars. With the government pointing out that EVs are the future and backing these claims up with what might be in the region of $100 billion, or possibly significantly more, and banning ICE sales by certain dates, is also giving the citizens a big message that EVs are the future. These incentives, even if they include PHEVs too, well, either way, they're going to reduce the demand for pure ICE cars. Governments would be best to incentivize battery factories and mining of battery elements. Of course, a Tesla battery factory is literally 10 times more efficient than a traditional one, so in reality it should only be Tesla battery factories, as it's a significantly more efficient way to spend taxpayers' money. However, Tesla are fully aware of this, and thus going to build up their battery factories as fast as possible, which means the government can't really make that go much faster. Aside from not keeping legacy orders on life support with taxpayers' money and freeing up these legacy auto jobs to build more batteries and EVs. For the government's best chance in the US growing the EV industry the fastest, they need to support Tesla and forget about the ICE industry. It's gone. And hybrids are the same. They still have internal combustion engines. Electric is the future. But Tesla doesn't need the government to do this. In fact, they'll likely just get in the way anyway. Thanks for listening. Please hit the thumbs up and subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter and talk to me on Patreon.